David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome. We are in Solden, Austria. It took a little bit to get here, but we're here for the sneak preview opening of 007 Elements. It's a big day. We're going to be heading up the mountain. We're going to be seeing Elements, maybe seeing some surprise guests, but guess what? We're going to take you with us. This is going to be a vlogging tour of Elements. We're going to have some surprises. We're going to be going live, lots of pictures, but you're coming with us. Let's go to it. So I told you there would be surprises. We've got a huge surprise over here. Everybody that attends today gets a brand new DB5. We cannot thank it. No, that's not happening. We're not Oprah Winfrey. We're not giving everybody a car, but this was a nice surprise. We had no idea there would be an Aston Martin DB5 here to greet us, but here it is. I wonder what other surprises are in store for us. Okay. Clearly they don't want us on. So this is the first step in doing this. This is phase one. As you can see, we're going to be heading up in a gondola. What I thought was really appropriate, if you come over this way so people can get on, is they're actually filled up the entire gondola with nefarious characters. Remmer, jump in. Okay, so this is the expendable gondola. This is the one, if it falls, there's really nothing that's going to hurt the Bond community too much. So we'll see you at the next stop. So this approach is very important because this area is the first area you see that's actually used in the movie when Q escapes from his soon-to-be the baddies, but he kind of goes around and you see the interior. So the interior that we're going to be seeing should be there, but you get a quick passing view of this rounded kind of stop. So as you approach it, we're approaching it. We're excited. So we're in the station that you see Q. If you come over this way, you're going to see that they have one of the Range Rovers. Let's go on this side. You can see that it's pretty much banged up. But if you go to the top here, you can see this is where the stunt driver would have driven the Range Rover. So let's peel over to the front here. You can start to see the front. So clearly, this is some special effect banged up that you're seeing right now, but it's an incredible welcome when you get off before you go to the second part. Now, if you focus over there, you're going to see the lift, the gondola that you see Q in. Of course, he didn't have the Elements thing on it right now, but this is the area that you see Q chased down by the baddies. So we're already starting to get into the environment itself. Okay, so these are the ones that you would have seen Q in. Well, that's going to be close to you. So we're actually getting in the ones that you would have seen from the movies. You kind of get this recognition. So let's hop on in. And as we go in, immediately we've got to start inspecting our rings to see who exactly is held in. But we'll fill it up with some nefarious characters.
I'm just taking pictures of everybody else, taking pictures of everybody else.
Yeah.
We are just coming up in the gondola, so we'll see
Okay,
you
we
there
are
in
now
10
live
minutes.
in what I affectionately call the Q gondola, because this is the gondolas that we're carrying Q and the nefarious bad guys. We are joined by literally people from all over the globe here.
Okay. The atmosphere is set. That's great.
It is.
Move the dots.
3040 meters.
Great. So you can see a lot of recognizable things.
Yeah.
New Ice Q right now. We're going to see the approach. Let's take a look. And you can see they've already emblazoned it with the Elements logo, which begins already.
Okay. Our program is to fall on the fans.
Okay,
a
fine.
big picture of the oil. So
Okay.
You can see, by the way, the view here,
great.
which is
about the delay.
obviously all the views. It's absolutely spectacular.
Yeah.
You look out today, we had a very, very clear day. And down there is actually where they did the photo shoot. So they did the photo call with everybody with Hank, so we'll see that a little bit later. But let's walk into Ice Cube.
I know, it's stunning. So head on in and head upstairs.
Upstairs?
Yeah, upstairs.
Hello. So we're heading in. You can see the velvet rope means VIP. Might as well wait out here. And immediately you're opened up to this incredible view out here.
Hi.
Hello.
Good, thank you.
Take in the view if you can. My gosh. Absolutely beautiful. So already what you're hearing is the writing in the wall. And the writing really is on the wall because we see the element 007.
Right on the plaza.
So we're going to head in, see first expectations. This is called the barrel of the gun. Bright light that really opens up into this over here, which as you can see is the Bond coat of arms. The world is not enough. Very nice. So what's amazing is they brought out the elements. Literally, you're outside amongst this incredible, very Bondian moment. Neil's going to give us an introduction.
The architecture of this place with Tino here. So the space that you've just walked through really was designed as a kind of transition piece from the outside world to the world of James Bond. So we're hoping that what happens when you walk in here is that now you're standing on this beautiful plaza, you feel like you're in the world of James Bond. And the way that we've tried to achieve that throughout this whole installation is with the use of architecture and design, really. And we really wanted to try and use the angles and the sort of circular iconography and the materiality of this building to make you feel like you're part of the world of James Bond. So, I mean, this is a great example for us because if you look back at the work of Sir Ken Adam, you always see these kind of dramatic angles that are juxtaposed with, dramatic angles in concrete that are juxtaposed with natural rock, and these like big circular pieces in the ceiling or in the floor. And we've really tried to kind of have a nod to that, but in a very modern, contemporary way.
Really, because we had the unique kind of opportunity to really work hand in hand with Hans on the architecture, to really think of this as as a sequence, as an architectural, as a spatial sequence that becomes part of the exhibition. So every proportion, every way that the spaces are designed is pretty much part of the design concept and the way that we wanted people to kind of lead through the whole exhibition. And the idea was to, instead of kind of a traditional museum where you have kind of a neutral space and you've got objects where people look at, the idea was more that the space has become part of it and you're more immersed in it, and the content and everything will become way more spatial and surrounding you rather than objects that you look at. So that's why again, also the other aspect I think that we didn't talk about yet was kind of we looked at what makes the Bond movies. There's a very specific formula how they're basically built up, and you see that in all of the Bond movies that you usually have kind of a dramatic action sequence at the beginning. Then you've got the title sequence. Then you've got a lot of very iconic characters like Bond, like Q, M, the villains, and you've got the gadgets and the cars. You have the action sequences, and so we also dedicated one of the spaces to each of these aspects, but we looked at it through the lens of Spectre.
Yeah, and it's subtle. I mean, you know, for example, the space that you've just walked through is really how we're, you know, illustrating the music and the title sequences. But we want people to feel it rather than read about it necessarily on the wall. I mean, of course, there is deep information in some of the spaces, but some of them are just about the emotive feeling that you might get in the world of James Bond. That's what we're really hoping to achieve.
Yeah, then again, one final aspect what Neil touched on earlier, you know, Sam Mendes' concept about, you know, the strong contrast of dark and light. You know, when you come through that tunnel and then suddenly it opens up here, that's the first time. And we also use those outside connections really to tie it into the location. You know, so once you come out here, you're like, you know, you've got this incredible panorama, and you really feel like you're in a villain's lair. And then there's two more windows, like Neil said, you know, this opens up to Obermoser, and the other one opens to the Glacier Street. So we also tried to kind of connect it with the surrounding and where the Bond was shot.
Yeah, and the one other aspect that we've really tried to use, and I don't know if you've mentioned this, is soundscape. You know, you'll notice that throughout the whole journey of the building, there's always a sound, quite a loud score playing, and you know, keeping to our kind of cinematic installation brief, we wanted to kind of knit the whole thing together with sound like you might find in a movie, and that's really why we're hoping this is more akin to a kind of movie-going experience than a traditional museum. Yeah. So a couple of other things to say out here. You know, you guys being Bond fans will probably already have recognised that this is the James Bond family crest, and it says underneath there, "The world is not enough" in Latin. So we've cut that out of steel. That's nice, and I think to have the kind of minimal environmental impacts on the mountain, which was kind of like our main goal at the beginning, you aren't allowed to put any foundations into the ground. So the way the building works is it's trapped in permafrost, and there's a double skin of concrete around the carcass of the building, which allows the air to circulate naturally, causing natural air conditioning, which maintains the building at around 1 degree Celsius, winter or summer, so that it doesn't melt itself out of its foundations. There's no heating in the building, there's no use of energy like that, it's self-sufficient. So the idea is that people who are in the winter months skiing can come just put their skis off at the entrance over there, walk through the building in their ski boots and their ski clothes, pop out the bottom, put the skis back on and go down, hopefully stopping and having a glass of Vespa Martini or something at the ice on the way down.
And the story about the building,
yeah,
it's a known Bond story, because it was in this altitude, it was really extremely. We started in the end of May, beginning of June, so when we started, rock was coming down, we had to stop it to save it, and we had so bad weather last year. So it's normal that it can snow also today here, but it was snowing so often from September on, and at the end in November we had again 1 meter snow, so we had to close the road to the Gaislachkogl, and the last 145 cubic meters of conker we had to fly with helicopter to finish it. And the conquering, the work we already did with minus 22, and so it was really incredible hard time for the people, and my respect goes to the people who were working here.
Yeah.
They had an incredible hard time, and I always say it's really a Bond story, all the building, how it was done, and but at the end everything is good.
Yeah.
We had a lot of big buildings, you know. Our architect Hans Obermoser did the 2 cable cars. This was his first work with us. Then he did the Ice Cube. This was the main reason James Bond came to Solden. And then on the other side we have the Gaislachkogl Mountain. We did it 2 years ago. It has the highest capacity of a cable car bringing people from a village to the mountains, 4,500 persons per hour. And so this was not the biggest building, but I would say it was the most hard building.
It was challenging.
Yeah, it was really incredible.
Yeah, because also, and you'll notice, well I hope you notice inside, or you don't notice in fact, that there's no cables on the walls, there's no data cables running to anything, there's no cables running to the lighting, any of that stuff. So we had to know exactly where all our audio-visual equipment was going, all our servers, all our data, all of that stuff before we even started building the building. All of those cables and wires had to be insulated for minus 30 degrees centigrade. All our projectors had to be mounted in environmental housings which had their own extractors to stop them humidifying. So all of that stuff was a very complicated design and architectural process which was done really with Optimist and Obermoser's team. So the whole thing was, an extremely challenging piece of architecture to do, and then you throw in the fact that it's 3,000 meters above sea level in the snow in July, and it's
And
pretty
no time.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no time.
It's a pretty impressive.
I was always the bad guy because I gave always pressure.
So we can open tomorrow.
But I also would say it was very important that it was a very small team. It was Hans, it was Neil, Dino,
Yeah.
and us, and we could be very flexible and quite soon. And I think we now really are all happy that it is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's been, an amazing job. Unique in your lifetime. So we would ask you kindly not to video, if you don't mind, the presentations on the interior. If you could just take photos.
So we could only give you picture by picture of the internal parts of the museum because we want you to be surprised. We don't want to ruin everything and feel like you've come here when you haven't. You need to experience it yourself. By the way, what you just saw was the last remaining defender in a very precarious position. Where we're standing now was also the photo call where a lot of the stars, including Daniel Craig, took their pictures with this amazing scenic background, and you really understand why they chose this particular area to film.
Customers that come in. Longer sleeves and higher share.
Okay, so we are in the world famous, and I mean world famous, Ice Cube restaurant. This was the inspiration to have this as a James Bond spot. By the way, if you think this is just an interesting James Bond spot, you would be wrong. It's an incredible gourmet discussion and experience. We're having chicken right now, but we've had several courses. So not only is this a tour of James Bond elements, it's a tour of the Ice Cube experience. The views that you see when you sit here of not just the food, but looking out across the amazing mountains is second to none. So I'm probably going to get white balanced here, but this is all part of the experience of feeling like James Bond. One thing missing, no digestive enzyme shakes. So we're still on the hunt. Here we are on top of the Solden Mountain. We just saw elements. We're on one of the defenders, and now it's snowing. Could it be more of a Bond moment? I feel like this is rolling backwards. So this is the last vlog we're going to be doing. This is David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. We'll see you very soon. Take care. Oh, hey, you're still here. I didn't even know. You listen, while you're here, if you want, so I would actually go to this button right here and click on it, because then you actually subscribe to our vlogs. It's amazing. You get to see all the upcoming stuff first. You get notifications. It screams at you while you're at work. It's absolutely amazing. Just click on this button, hit subscribe, just move your cursor, move.